Mr. Coley, if you would note that all the commissioners are present, with the exception of Commissioner Askew. Commissioner Askew's mother passed away, and in fact, the service is probably going on right as we're having this meeting. So I know he can't be here with us today, and our thoughts and prayers are with him. We're lucky today to have a number of participants in the Leadership Development Program with us today. Welcome to the board meeting. If you would, please stand up, introduce yourself, tell us how long you've been at KUB, where you work, and what you're currently working on.
I'm Keith Patterson. I work in overhead construction at KUB, where I'm a foreman in the line department on a construction crew. I've been at KUB almost 28 years now. With the leadership program, we're doing a wellness team project that we are increasing the number of biometric screenings, and that is going well. Get a lot of participants, and excited about that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Chad Nellis. I work in the Information Services Department. I've been with KUB for 9 years. Currently the supervisor of IT operations side of the department, and I'd say the biggest project that I'm working on is migrating the company from Lotus Notes to Outlook in Office 365, so a big change.
That sounds like a foreign language.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brian Day. I work in the Accounting and Budget Department. I've been at KUB almost 17 years, and I lead the budget and long-range planning team, and so we're currently getting ready for your April board meeting. So we've just gotten through meeting with all the departments at KUB and gathering their proposed budgets and putting all that information in our financial models and kind of working through that so we can get with Mr. Walker and make sure we do a good presentation in April. So thank you.
I'm David Keck. I work in the properties department. I've been at KUB for almost 4 years, and I'm currently involved in the mechanical plant upgrade project at Hoskins Center.
I'm Kendra Lane. I am a CPA and an analyst in the accounting department, and my primary role is financial reporting, and which includes bond issuances, and I've been with KUB for 5 years.
I'm Leanne Parker. I've been with KUB for 11 years. I am currently in the plant operations department, where I lead the process support and quality control team. Our large project right now is our knowledge management initiative. And as of next week, I will be transitioning to our environmental stewardship team.
My name is Nathan Babley. I'm in the engineering department. I'm the team lead for the water and wastewater design team, as well as the plant's project management team. I've been at KUB for 3 years, and one of the interesting projects that I have the privilege of working on is the water supply master plan, where we are in the early stages of design on the 6 new filters at MBW.
Well, thank you all for participating in this program. It's a great resource that KUB has, because being able to grow leaders from inside the company is a really, really important thing. Commissioners, you all have your minutes from our meeting of January 18, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have one resolution to consider today, and this is Resolution 1373. It requests City Council to adopt a resolution setting the electric and gas tax equivalent payments for fiscal year 2018 and providing for their allocation to the affected taxing jurisdictions.
Commissioners, as you know, we make tax equivalent payments to the jurisdictions in which we have in our service area. I'll recognize Mark Walker to give you the details of that in the presentation to City Council.
Commissioners, good afternoon. As you will recall, each year we do make in lieu of tax payments for all 4 of our utility systems to the taxing jurisdictions in which our utility systems are located. Now, in my brief presentation today, I'm going to talk about all 4 systems pilots. But you may note from looking at Resolution 1373 that that only deals with electric and gas pilots. And that's because under state law, City Council is required to adopt a resolution each year that sets those amounts and also provides for the allocation and distribution to the various taxing jurisdictions. There is no such requirement for water and wastewater payments. Looking in total at what our payments are going to be for FY 2018, just under 30 million, 29.9 million, and that is inclusive of all systems and for all taxing jurisdictions combined. At that level, it's an increase of approximately $800,000 or 2.7% over last fiscal year, actually. And that increase is expected, and it is a reflection of the increase in the book value or net plant value of our utility system assets for all 4 utility systems. And that's really a reflection of our Century 2 infrastructure programs each year. Looking at what is the authoritative guidance that helps set the amount of the pilot payments for each system and also provide for their distribution to the various taxing jurisdictions, starting with water and wastewater. As I mentioned, state law is silent on water and wastewater payments, and so those are governed solely by the city charter. So we set those amounts in a manner prescribed by the charter and also provide for their distribution in a manner prescribed by the charter. And you will note on this particular slide that for water and wastewater, the only basis for the payments is the net plant value, the book value of the utility system assets. And actually for water and wastewater, it's only the value that resides within the city of Knoxville, because in accordance with the charter, we only make payments to the city for water and wastewater. And those payments are made the last business day in February. For our electric and gas payments, it's a little bit more complex. Those payments are governed by state law. And state law actually sets forth formulas for the calculation of the payments and provides for their distribution and allocation to the various taxing jurisdictions as well. One thing to note that's different from water and wastewater is there's actually 2 components for the electric and gas payments. There is the book value of utility system assets in each taxing jurisdiction. There's also a component that takes the 3-year average of the sales margin, multiplies it by 4%, and there's a means within the law that says how that's allocated among the various taxing jurisdictions. So you're going to see electric and gas payments be at a higher level because it has an additional component to them. And for those payments, those will be made on the last business day of June. Looking at our $29.9 million broken down by utility system, first for electric, $15.5 million in total. Those payments will be allocated among the city, Knox County, and 6 other counties in which a portion of our electric system is located. For our gas payments, $6.9 million in total for FY18. That's allocated among the city, Knox County, and 2 other counties in which we have a very small portion of our gas distribution system located, being Anderson and Loudoun counties, respectively. And then our water and wastewater payments combined, $7.5 million. And again, those are paid solely to the city of Knoxville. You will note that on the variance that gas is actually down, water is up slightly. The reason for the decrease in gas, you might ask, has to do with every 4 years, you'll know that property values are reassessed in Knox County. And when that happens, the effective property tax rate is actually lowered. So as not to create a windfall in property tax revenue for the taxing jurisdictions. We actually benefit from that reduction in the tax rate. And we actually saved about $1 million in our current year pilots because of that. So we benefit every 4 years from that reduction when property values are reassessed. Looking quickly by payments by jurisdiction, as is typically the case, the city of Knoxville receives the largest amount, and that's true in FY18 at a total of $19.1 million. That does represent an increase of about $620,000 over last year for the city of Knoxville. I'll point out that is a big funding component for the city. At $19.1 million, that represents approximately 10% of their total general fund revenue that's derived from tax-related sources. So we're a big funding component for the city. For Knox County, $9.9 million, an increase of $145,000 over last fiscal year. Really the same with the city. It is a big source of funding for the county, about 7% of their general fund operating budget from tax-related revenue. And then you can see all of the other various counties combined. Most of those are for where the electric system is located in those 6 other counties outside of Knox County. In total, those represent $893,000, and that's an increase of about $30,000 over last year in total. And then commissioners, just for your information, we like to show this. It shows how our pilot payments have grown over a 20-year period dated back to 1998. And you can see 20 years ago, our total payments were right around $12 million. They've grown at an annual rate of about 4.5% over the last 20 years. So it takes you to a level of close to $30 million by 2018. We also have a line that shows what the payments would have been if they'd grown at the rate of inflation. So you can see it has grown quite a bit higher than the rate of inflation. A part of that reason is because of our increase in capital investment in our utility systems, Case 10, which started in 2005 for wastewater, Century 2, which started in 2011 for electric, gas, and water system. And then in closing, Resolution 1373 does request City Council adopt a resolution that sets the amount of the electric and gas pilot payments for fiscal year 2018 at a total amount of $22.4 million. Also provides for the allocation and distribution of those electric and gas payments to the various taxing jurisdictions as required by law. I'll also make mention that there is a requirement in the state law that says that the KUB board needs to consult with City Council on the amount of the payments. Here, I want to tell you that the adoption of this resolution and the delivery to the City Council does satisfy that statutory requirement. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve Resolution 1373 on first and final reading?
Second.
I know we have a number of visitors here today. Do any visitors wish to be heard on this motion? If not, then Mr. Coley, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert.
Aye.
Commissioner Pennell.
Aye.
Commissioner Simpson Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Small.
Aye.
Commissioner Worden.
Aye.
Resolution 1373 is passed on first and final reading.
Minta, if you would give us the President's report.
We're going to start with a report that is timely at this time of year. I recognize Tiffany Martin. She's one of the managers in our customer service area. She's going to give you a two-part report. One is an update on our Project Help fundraising, which is a program that helps some of our customers who have emergency needs this time of year. The second is related to our Rounded Up program. As you know, the KEEM program was funded by TVA, and the funds for that have all expired. And that was to provide energy efficiency in homes of low-income customers. However, KUB has a Rounded Up program that's been a pilot program for the last 3 years. That program, if nothing is done, will expire this May. Tiffany will give you an update on the success of that program, the impact it's had on a few of our customers, and then next month it will be presented to you with a recommendation by the board to extend that program and make it permanent. So I recognize Tiffany.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I'll start by briefly talking about our Project Help program. We recently ended our Project Help campaign. On an annual basis, we actually can get funds to this program in a couple of different ways. The first is customers are able to donate funds with their monthly KUB payment, one time or recurring with their monthly bill payment. As well as each year in January, we do an annual fundraiser to raise additional funds. And this year that's very important given the recent temperatures. As today's beautiful and nice outside, but this winter's been one of the coldest winters that we've had. It's actually been the second coldest since 1980. And as a result, customers are experiencing higher bills than normal due to increased consumption from energy use. So obviously when your home is cold and your heating system is trying to work to get to that warmer temperature, utility bills increase. And so this is one of the programs that we utilize to help those customers that are experiencing an issue there. Basically, this program provides emergency heating assistance. So if a customer is experiencing difficulties such as a job loss, a disability, and a prolonged illness, and has trouble heating their home due to the cost, this program allows that customer to get funds. So this year's campaign, we were able to raise over $38,000 for the campaign, which will go to great use this year. And with that money, more than 100 households will be able to get emergency assistance as they need it with these cold temperatures and higher utility bills. This program actually does help kind of in the immediate need. It is not one of our longer time programs to assist. We have a barrage of services that we provide to customers, and knowing that we have high bills right now, Project Help is one of those. We also talk a lot about our levelized billing program, as well as other options that we offer to customers. Another program that I'll talk about today is our Rounded Up program, as Ms. Roach mentioned. And that's really more about long-term, sustainable, lower energy use. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I want you to know before I move on is that what we've seen thus far with the Rounded Up program is that those participants that have had their homes weatherized, those participants are using 26% less funds of the Emergency Project Help Fund as a result. So we're already seeing results of the Rounded Up program, and so we definitely want to make you guys aware that we've seen success specifically with those customers that have received emergency funds in the past. Let's talk a little bit about the Rounded Up program. As Ms. Roach mentioned, it was a 3-year pilot that was started in May of 2015. And that pilot was set forth to just see whether we would be successful with such a program. At the time, the only funds that were available for weatherization were the Department of Energy's program, and then the KUB program had recently come on board. With this program, weatherization funds are provided to low-income KUB customers to make energy efficiency improvements in their homes. And those funds are collected from customer dollars. And those customers voluntarily allow us to round up their bill to the next dollar. And typically it's just spare change. The most a customer might contribute is about $12 a year, or a little less than that, honestly. But on average, most customers contribute about $6 a year. With that program, we actually partner with the Knox County Community Action Committee, or CAC, to administer the program. So CAC is actually the administrator of the Department of Energy program. They also were heavily involved with the KUB program, and because of their expertise, we decided to partner with them on our Rounded Up program, as well as they work really closely with us on the Project Help program. So we've had a long relationship with them and trust their expertise in this area. The funds that are collected, 100% of those funds go directly to CAC, and they manage the program. And that works the best just simply, as I mentioned, that they have the expertise, they have the tools in place to acquire the contractors to do the work, as well as they're comfortable with program administration of these types of programs. We've been very lucky. When we started the program, we started it as an opt-out program. So essentially every customer was opted into the program, but it was important to us to not change customer bills without making them aware of that change. So prior to the program launch in May 2015, we did an extensive communication plan, and part of that plan was to build awareness, gain support, as well as allow customers to opt out of the program up to 6 months prior to us even beginning it. Although we put all those efforts in place, we still had tremendous participation from our customers. I think they really want to help others in the community in need, and so our current participation rate is 59%. With that 59% participation and across this period of 3 years, we've been able to collect $2.1 million in contributions, all of which have gone to weatherize homes. At this point, we've weatherized over 160 homes, but the need is still tremendous in our community. CAC actually maintains a waiting list, and on that waiting list, there's over 2,000 customers waiting to have their homes assessed and weatherized. So the need is definitely great still in our community. We anticipate that our participation rate will stabilize at about 50% of our customer population. And at that point, we think we'll be able to collect, $600,000 a year. And with that $600,000 about 70 homes can be weatherized each year. This is going to show you just where those homes have been weatherized across the KUB service territory. The gold area is the KUB service area. The smaller blue area is the Knoxville city limits. And all the blue dots that you see is a home that was actually completed with rounded up funds. You'll note that there's not one specific area of our service territory that needs this type of weatherization. However, we do have a lot of requests. About 90% of the requests do come from Knoxville or Knox County, but we have done some projects in some of the surrounding counties, and we'll continue to do that as we have participants ask for it. Yes?
Tiffany, I'm sorry if this was covered before in a prior meeting, but when I didn't have much of an income, I had to rent. How many of the weatherization funds go to homes that are owned by people who may not be, could have done it themselves maybe?
Sure, absolutely, that's an excellent question. The renters actually are eligible for this program. So because you're the actual customer in the home, paying the utility usage, you can participate and be able to get that home weatherized. There is a process that has to be gone through to make sure that the owner is comfortable with obviously construction happening to their home, but renters are eligible for the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So as I was saying, this is really widespread, and as I mentioned before, the need is really great in our community. Typically when a home is selected, there's a model that's utilized, and a CAC expert goes into the home and performs an audit. As part of that audit, they're trying to determine what measures could be done in the home to help decrease the energy consumption by 25%. So that's the goal. Every home does not receive the same type of improvement. It's truly based on that individual home and what adjustments can be made to help with energy cost. As you can see, there's a tremendous need for heating and cooling systems and insulation. Obviously, cooling accounts for almost 50% of your typical energy use. So that's one area that seems to need a lot of help. A lot of the homes that are in our area are aged and have older heating and cooling systems, so it's very important to change those systems. You'll also note water heaters and air sealing are two things that are done quite a bit in homes as well. And then you'll notice that not often are windows and doors replaced. Typically, it's those larger items that need to be done to really see an impact in each of those homes that are assessed. But changes aren't just made just to make them. If those auditors don't see that it's necessary to be made and they won't have an impact, those changes aren't made. They really try to stick to that model of about 25% and try to do the smallest amount of improvements to make the biggest impact. Jason Estes is the Director of Housing and Energy Services at CAC, so he provides oversight for the Rounded Up program. He also provides oversight for the Department of Energy program, and he did for the King program, so he has a lot of experience with these type programs. He's seen the impact that Rounded Up is having. Our Rounded Up program has allowed them to double the amount of clients that they're assisting in their offices, especially clients that are disabled and elderly in that low income bracket. And he knows that the impact is so important. It's often that he has folks come into the office, not necessarily for Rounded Up, but for maybe project help. They need energy assistance. They direct them to this program. And it's amazing when they come back and say, thank you so much. It's made a big difference in my home. I've kind of talked a little bit at a high level about the program. I do want to give you guys a couple of specific examples of customers. This first customer is a disabled veteran. The work was completed at his home about a year ago. It's an aged home built in the 1960s. Very poor insulation, almost no insulation at all in the home, and a very aged water heater. The improvements that were made based on the audit results were his water heater was replaced, The attic was insulated, and the exterior door was replaced to the home. So as you can see, there weren't a tremendous amount of things changed in this home. However, what he experienced as a result of that is he saw a 28% decrease in energy cost across the year, which is a $500 annual savings for that customer. So someone that has a very fixed income, $500 is a significant amount of money to put back into your monthly budget. This customer was surveyed and asked how he felt about the experience and what he thought about the Rounded Up program. And for him, obviously, he can feel the difference in that his home is insulated, he's warmer inside his home, and he enjoyed the experience with the contractors that he had on site. Another example, a disabled, elderly customer, home built in the 1940s. And in this case, this customer did need a heating and cooling system. It was quite outdated, not efficient at all, and very poor insulation. Her home was completed in November of 2016. And the things that were replaced there were the heat pump, and the associated ductwork was also replaced, because obviously you can get a new heating system, but if the ductwork that carries that warm air or cool air isn't efficient, it causes a problem as well. Her attic and floors were also insulated. And for this customer, more important than the energy savings, which she did achieve as well, a $300 annual savings, she could really feel comfortable in her home. She raved a lot in her survey about how much more comfortable she was, but at a lower cost. And she really appreciated all the efforts that have been done to make her home better. So those are really two just snippets of what's happened. There's 167 stories that I could share. We don't have that time today. But I just wanted to kind of go in summary and talk a little bit about the impact that the community has seen. I mentioned early on that customers we've seen that have in the past needed emergency heating assistance, we're spending 26% less dollars to that effort because of the work that's been done in their homes. And our goal is to reduce their energy costs by 25%. So there's a correlation there. We're seeing that those things are happening. The Knoxville Extreme Energy Makeover, as Ms. Roach mentioned, those funds ended this past fall, so that program is no longer available. So the only programs that are currently existing are Rounded Up and the Department of Energy program. The Rounded Up program is set to expire in May, and if the board decides to not renew that program, we will not be able to double the number of homes that CAC is helping today. So the Department of Energy fund will be the only fund that will be available. You all will actually have official action brought to you in March, and we hope that we've provided enough information for you to feel comfortable in making some decisions about continuing the program. That's all I have today, but what questions might you have for me?
Tiffany, how does CAC set the schedule for which homes they're going to do next? Is it a first come, first serve, or is it a prioritization out of the audit? How do they?
I think, and I can't speak to all of the specifics, they do provide us documentation back about which houses are done and why. But I think it is more of a first come, first serve. Sometimes it is about contractor availability. So one home might need an HVAC system, and a contractor may not be available, and so they may move on to another home to ensure that they keep contractors readily busy with the program.
I think it's a wonderful program. You know, anything that helps reduce somebody's bills is wonderful and also comfortable. I keep on going back to the rental houses that are improved.
Sure.
And if there's any way we can avoid any unintended results of, say, now the house is more valuable, the rent gets raised, or something like that. If there's any sort of safety net where the improvements are made, and then as long as that person is renting, that the rent needs to remain the same. Have you ever encountered anything like that?
I have not personally encountered that. I have not heard that the CAC has personally encountered that, but I think that is something that as we continue this program, that's something that we can include in our MOU with the CAC to ensure that if we are doing those types of improvements, we don't put a customer in a tough situation. We've reduced one cost and increased another. So that's a good point, we'll take note of
Let me
that.
make a note that when we were developing the parameters around this program, we considered that as a potential concern. It's one of the reasons we did this as a pilot program to see if we would have any unintended consequences. But we also looked at the customers who were struggling, and so many of those are renters. They will choose a place to rent based on what the monthly rent is without considering what the cost of energy is. Then when they get in there, they can't afford the bills. So there's a desperate need for renters, and we chose to include it in the program because we think it will really have a positive impact. Hopefully, we won't have any of those negative impacts.
Samantha, maybe next month when we're considering official action on this, we could get a breakdown of how many of those 160 homes are rentals.
Okay.
And maybe if, just to check to see whether
Sure.
there's been any kind of tenant impact.
Okay.
All right, Tiffany, I think you answered my question. I was gonna ask, what kind of data does the CAC will provide back to us as they go through this process? Is there a meeting? Are there meetings? Are
Absolutely.
there conversations that we have, and what do they provide?
There's an audit process. Excuse me, let me grab a little bit of water. I'm a little choked. I'm catching up from a cold, so. The CAC actually, part of our MOU, they're required to provide us a breakdown of every home that is completed, all of the work that's done in that home, the associated receipts, and anything related to the program. So they're required to do that. They actually send us that on a monthly basis today. In addition, rounded up as part of our financial audit, our risk audit, as well as for the CAC, it's part of their financial audit. So it is looked at very closely.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you, guys.
Commissioners, we have a really significant presentation now. It's an exciting time for us because, as you know, we've been involved in the consent decree since 2005. And we're down to the last two major projects. And by way of introducing these projects, I want to introduce the presenters. So stand up, Shane.
Thank you,
Shane Bragg. Now, hang on a minute. I'm really going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Shane Bragg is the project engineer who's overseeing this project. And there's a maxim in leadership, and it is for leaders to get out of the way of the people who are doing the real work. Shane is one of the guys who's doing the real work on this project. So we asked him here today to do this presentation. But if he looks familiar to you, it's because he was sitting in that row last month as a member of the Leadership Development Group. So, for those of you who are sitting there this month, beware. Next month, he might be up here doing a presentation. He's a civil engineer in the Water Division. He's been with us 6 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're very pleased to have him and many more like him behind the scenes doing the real work. So Shane, the podium is yours.
What a warm introduction. Good afternoon, Commissioner. I don't know of any engineers that don't enjoy the opportunity to speak about their projects, so it's a pleasure to be here today. Thanks for the invitation to talk about the composite correction plans at Kauai and Fourth Creek wastewater treatment plant. Of course, the consent decree, as most everyone in the room is familiar with, required extensive piping rework in the collection system. Also, the addition of wastewater storage tanks to moderate and help control flow. And the reason we're here today is to talk about the wastewater treatment plants, which is the consent decree portion of the work. Amongst other things, the phase one portion of the composite correction plan included storage tanks, which is controlled by the Kauai facility, a high rate clarification system at the Fourth Creek facility. And of course, the reason we're here today is to talk about the phase two work nearing completion at Fourth Creek and construction about to begin at Kauai. The composite correction plan is to construct a biologically enhanced high rate clarification system, or BEHRC. This will provide full treatment to peak flows, the key word here being full treatment. These are the final consent decree projects. Let's look a little bit at the wastewater treatment process. First, we're going to look at the normal train which is the top of the screen there. This process is similar to both the Fourth Creek and the Kauai plant, so for this presentation, we'll just kind of keep it general. Initially, the flow comes into the plant at the headworks and screening structure. It passes into the primary clarification or solid settling portion of the process. From there, it goes to the biological contact portion. Let's stop here for a moment. You may be aware that plants retain a certain portion of good microorganisms. If you're looking for a technical term, we call them bugs at the plant. After it leaves this process, it goes to the clarification portion and then to disinfection and outfalls to the Tennessee River. Let's step back to the biological contact portion of the process. During high flows, and I'm going to use Kauai as an example here, Fourth Creek is very similar in nature during wet weather flows as far as how we would manage flows. But during an event at Kauai, for example, we can treat 70 million gallons through the normal treatment train. Anything above that, at that point, we are not able to utilize the biological contact portion of the work. The high rate clarification project, or the CCP project, adds a component to receive full biological treatment for all flows. So enter the wet weather treatment portion of the work. The first stage would be the CCP storage component, which are the tanks controlled at the Kauai facility. This allows plant operators to attenuate flow at the plant level. From there, it passes on to another unique biological contact portion of the project, and then on to the high rate clarifiers. You can see some similarity between the normal treatment train and the wet weather treatment train of the process. Let's look a little bit closer at the high rate clarification portion. This is the biologically enhanced high rate clarifier. Initially, you can see wastewater enters the biological tank. This is where the bugs are introduced to the process. From there, it passes into the first stages of the high rate clarification. Basically, the biologically enhanced water comes into the first stage, and a coagulant is added to clump the solids together. We then inject sand into the clump, which acts as a ballast to rapidly settle the solids material. At the end of the process, the fully clarified water is ready to receive disinfection and discharge to the Tennessee River. A unique portion of this project are the sand and sludge recirculation pumps. Sand is recycled virtually 100% reused into the system by means of centrifuges, which you can see at the top of the process. The sludge is then returned to the plant for reuse, and anything that is not reused is further refined into the KUB biosolids program. These are two of my favorite pictures in the presentation. The top one is the first stage of the process. This is the water after it has received biological contact. It's a little bit difficult to see in the process. The second part of the process, you can start to see the clumps forming and the rapid settling of those solids. And then, of course, the picture at the bottom is the fully clarified water, which is ready for disinfection and discharge to the river. Some of the additional benefits would be operational flexibility. If you recall from the flow diagram from earlier, there were essentially two paths that the water could go by to receive full treatment. You can imagine if one of those paths has a maintenance issue and we need to work on a portion of the plant, then it almost gives us a redundant path for full treatment. It is a smaller footprint compared to what we saw in the normal train, the normal biological contact tanks and aeration systems. And it does support system growth due to added plant capacity. So the Fourth Creek CCP Phase 2 project. Some of the commissioners may recall the August 2013 tour that passed through the Lions View Pike. This was the multi-utility project, and it also visited the CCP Phase 1 project. We'll look at some of the photos of that in just a moment. But the important thing today is it's 95% complete with construction. You can see some key dates listed on the screen. One interesting fact about this project is the initial tour with TDEC is complete, with no comments made, or no concerns, I should say. This is important to KUB because it helps us realize we're on the right path for consent decree completion and meeting that EPA deadline. And some pictures on the left there, you can see the phase 1 portion of the work. That is the high rate clarifier portion. And to the front of the picture, you can see the groundbreaking of the biological contact tank. This would be the BE portion of the process. The middle picture shows erection of concrete forms and reinforcing steel. And the blue sky picture over Lakeshore Park picture on the right shows the completed contact tank. What is not represented in this picture is roughly half of the project costs included new pumps, electrical upgrades, and of course the yard piping, which includes the important pipe that brings the bugs into the contact tank, to keep it technical. The Kauai Phase 2 project is currently in 80% design. And keep in mind just the scale of things. The full treatment capacity of Kauai is 120 million gallons per day. Fourth Creek is 34 million gallons per day upon completion of the project. So Fourth Creek is roughly 30% smaller than Kauai. It's a very large project. That project is set to begin in fall of this year. Interesting fact, it's the largest single project in the consent decree. You can see the future site on the south side of Nealon Drive. And the picture at the bottom shows the new facility. This, of course, is an artist rendering. You can see some of the existing facilities, such as the plant water station, the existing control room, and the headworks facilities at Kauai. To the east in the background, you, of course, can see the downtown area, including Thompson-Boling and Neyland Stadium. Other pictures that are artist renderings show a view from the Greenway. Again, you can see the existing facilities in the photos as well. We have the existing plant water station, and in the background, you can see the biosolids refinement area, and also the existing control room. Picture on the right, you can see the Rivertown condominiums on Scottish Pike in the background. Of course, Cherokee Bluff also in the background as well. One of the key components of this project was to keep a low profile. So of course you can see the new BEHRC facilities there in contrast to some of the existing facilities. I'm pleased to report that these Century 2 investments are on schedule to meet consent decree deadlines, and these are the final EPA required projects. Are there any questions?
With these, with the construction, is redundancy built into this, or is that something separate from, aside from this program? So once we get the wastewater treatment plants fully operational, is there a redundancy plan built into that? In terms of if something breaks, we talk about redundancy in all of our construction. That's something that
There's redundant capacity. Is that what you meant?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, and that's a very good question too regarding Century 2 investments. For example, you may be familiar with the, we call it the sludge pump replacement project at Kauai. It's roughly a $5 million project that's currently in construction. Those are the type of projects that include infrastructure replacement that not only increase capacity and add redundancy, but they also support larger projects such as this.
Thank you.
Good question, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did well, Shane.
Thank you.
Great job.
Commissioners, I sent you an email with some good news a few weeks ago, and I'll recognize Gabriel Bolas to give you the details of that.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Commissioners, I'll give you a brief update on some recognition we received recently. The American Public Power Association recognizes utilities that are being at the forefront of reliability, and they refer to it as the Reliable Public Power Provider. We call it RP30. And so I'll give you some updates on that program and where we stand with that and the award we received recently. So first and foremost, what is it? It's really a stringent, comprehensive review of what are you doing to make sure reliability is a part of what you are as utility, electric utility. It's very in-depth. It has 4 major areas. Obviously, reliability. Are your numbers getting better for your customers? Are you doing it safely for your customers and for your employees? How are you developing your future employees? Case in point, leadership development is a case of where we're doing that really well. And then also system improvements, otherwise known as Century 2 for us. But are you doing those things really well? Are you investing in the future? Are you planning ahead and looking forward to making the system even stronger as you build it out? It's a very comprehensive report, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So it involves a lot of departments at KUB. It's a real cross-functional team because of all those categories. So electrical systems, operations, engineering, all the operations departments, construction involved a little bit. HR with the workforce development part of that is a huge part of this. And so it is very important that we have a lot of folks get their data together and compile it into such an application. I'd like to recognize 2 of our folks here today. Mike Patterson, he's our manager of electrical systems engineering. He acted as our sponsor. So you kind of added the thing there. And so stand up, Mike, please stand up. Okay, there you go, Mike. Yeah, and then Liz Hannah, who's right beside him, she acted as our facilitator. In other words, she herded all the cats together to get us all to get this application together. So she did a wonderful job of putting all this together in an application to submit to the APPA folks. But there was many more departments beyond just this group. So when I say comprehensive, I've never dealt with an application quite as detailed and thorough as this one. It was a 26-page application just to fill out the forms. That was their forms. But it required over 1,500 pages of documentation to back up our data. The good news is they actually allowed us to do electronically this year. We did it in 2015, it was all paper. We sent large reams of FedEx boxes to the APPA headquarters to get reviewed. They got smart and figured out electronic is the best way, and we did that. The review process takes 6 months. I mean, the preparation took us 6 months. We began this actually last March. The deadline was September of this past year to submit it, so we worked from March through September to fill out these forms and get the documentation presented to APPA. It takes them about 3 to 4 months to review it because a lot of utilities in the country do this. And it's a very distinguished group of folks that are known about the community, throughout the nation as experts on reliability electric utilities. And so they reviewed it and got back to us the first of the year with their findings. And before I get into the final result of what we received, it's not just about how many poles you're changing out, how many wires you put, how many substations are you building. It's a lot more than just that. That's a big part of it, don't get me wrong. But it's also about things like employee development programs, things we talked about here. How's your cybersecurity? That's a big component nowadays. What are you doing about that, and how often are you reviewing those programs? It's about community engagement. As you know, we are very much involved. It's part of our blueprint to be involved in our communities. They actually ask us and the board, what are you doing with the community? How are you serving it? How's your involvement with the community? And hence why we ask you every year for that data. It's part of this application. Some of the neat things is like mutual aid agreements. How do you help others that are in trouble? That's a big part of this also. Are you helping your friends and your neighbors next door? A good example for us, Sevier County Fires, and we were able to help those folks down there get their stuff back on quickly. And so things that you normally wouldn't think about as far as being reliability is bigger, it's just bigger than just wires and the substations. And so that we answered all those questions very thoroughly. So what do we get? 3 years ago, we got the Diamond Award, a 99. Well, we wanted to up it this time. So we got the Diamond Award again with a perfect 100 score. That is very, very incredible. It reflects what the board has given us to do and our employees doing it as far as reliability of our system. And it is the highest level. It is the gold. If you want to refer to the Olympics, it is the gold level. It's the diamond for them. To put it in perspective, only 10% of the utilities in the country receive an RP3 designation. Only 1% get a perfect score. So we're a very, very elite company, and we think we're doing the right thing for our customers as far as reliability. So I wanted to present that to you. It's really good news. And the question may be, well, that's great, get a nice certificate and a pat on the back, but really what does that mean? It means a lot to our customers. You recently heard about a ribbon cutting ceremony for our friends at Smith & Hammaker who are building a Tier 3 data center, a really high-level data center here in Knoxville up on Summit Hill. And they recognize the fact that we're RP3. In fact, if we told them we're diamond level, they're like, wow, that's impressive. That is exactly what we want to have for our data center to be 100% reliable for our customers. And so they reflected that in their quotes, that they recognized our efforts and that we're doing the right thing by that. And it is reflected in our customers. So it's not just about KUB, it's about our customers really appreciating what we're doing to keep them on when they need us. With that being said, any questions you have for that, about that? Yes.
That's great. You have a purpose for it's named. I mean, maybe it's not amazing, it's wonderful.
It's
Not
amazing.
surprising.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go after the designation in 2015? Was it a new designation, or has it been around for a while?
It's
or-
probably been around less than 10 years now. So back then, it's probably 5 years old or less at that point. We didn't know at first what it was, and we looked at it. It was such a comprehensive report. It was a lot of work. And we're like, we know we do all these things, but it's a lot of effort to put that into writing. Then we realized some of our customers were recognizing that as, we know we do a good job, but how we prove it kind of thing. And so we went after that in 2015 and learned a lot. It was a tough, that first iteration was harder than I thought it'd be to do the application. We've gotten better since then. But it was really just knowing the process, what they're asking for, what they're looking for, and improving it. But ultimately, meant I know Ms. Roach in the past has mentioned percentages, or last time coming to Knoxville mentioned the RP3 designation. That is really what we're saying is, we know we're good, but let's show how good we really are, ultimately add value to our customers, industrial, but also our residential customers.
I'll tell you that when we were contemplating doing it, it fits within our metrics of getting third-party confirmation for what we're doing, rather than just our opinion about what we're doing. So we wanted to do it to make sure there weren't gaps that we were missing. So
I think it's an excellent economic development tool to be able to, a new industry thinks about coming here. And, one of the criteria for any business is, do you have reliable utilities? And to be able to say that we're at the top tier of that speaks volumes for KUB and the hard work that the folks in this room and the folks that aren't in this room are doing every day to keep the lights on, keep our water running, and the gas flowing.
Good segue to my final point. The final 2 points. One is...
We didn't coordinate
I
this.
know, I appreciate that. One is we can't sit on laurels. We got to keep advancing what we're doing. They look at the fact that, are you getting better each time? So in 3 years, when this renewal comes up, we can't be stagnant. So we got to keep advancing ourselves and doing better each time. Secondly is the American Public Gas Association has just started a very similar program. They call it SOAR, and it recognizes the top gas utilities in the country. And the application is due next month. So we're in the process of filling it out. They didn't model theirs identically with this one, so we kind of know what it's going to look like. We've already begun getting the application submitted to the gas folks. So we'll have something back in a few months to let them know how we're doing on our gas utilities also. So appreciate that segue. Any other questions?
I just want to reiterate this lesson. Congratulations is not a good enough word. It's not a big enough word. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And with all the documentation, it's not like you can't just sort of put window dressing on it as you apply. You've got to show that this is a consistent delivery, and that how many people it takes to be excellent on a consistent basis to get a perfect score. So I just wanted to reiterate, congratulations and then some.
Thank you for your support, and it takes the board's direction for us to deliver it. So appreciate your all's effort, willingness to get behind something. Thank you.
Do we have any other business from the commissioners today? We have a number of visitors here today. I'll remind the visitors that there is a 5-minute limit per speaker, and I time you. So just to let you know, our first visitor is Union County Mayor Mike Williams. Welcome today.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you, so all this is visual. My reason for being here today is simply for Union County to say how much they appreciate the efforts of KUB in our community. We appreciate your willingness to have a representative at our chamber meetings, at our business professional meetings, because it's one thing for a mayor to hear what the community wants and then try to relay that to someone in Knoxville. But when you have someone from your community being involved in it, like with your association, your group, it makes it much easier because they attend the meetings. They hear the concerns that they have. They hear what is needed in a small community in a county of, say, 21,000. we took upon ourselves in Knoxville when they canceled the they canceled the Boomsday. Well, we thought, hey, this is great, we'll do it in Union County. So we planned for this event. We talked to the Boomsday people and we talked to the pyrotech people, and they said, well, since this is your first event, expect about 2,500 people, and you should have maybe 10 to 12 vendors. We had almost 6,000 people show up, and we had 30 vendors. That being said, we had a little trouble with electricity. We didn't have enough juice, if you will, for that park, which we're trying to make a park a destination for our community, something we'd be proud of. Got in contact with the representative from KUB and said, we've got some issues here. We were running cords everywhere, which that is a safety issue. And being a mayor, you don't want lawsuits. But I'm just saying, through the expertise of KUB, being connected to the right person in the right department, and their efforts to come up and visually look at and help us, we had to reset some poles. We did that. We had to put in another transformer. All those things were done in a short time frame because we were running against a second event we were having in Union County that drew was over 5,000 people. And those are two of the largest events ever to be held in that county. So these are things we're not used to, but we were able to do it directly with the help of the people of KUB. And I will say to you in summation that last few days they were there helping us as we were running up on the deadline, it rained. Imagine that. Every day. But those men and women were there, and we kept saying, our people, the locals kept saying, you're not going to be able to get this done. You're not going to be able to get this done. Being the mayor, hearing that, I would go down to the park, and there's those KUB workers, doing what they do. We're going to get this done. We're going to get this done. And they did. And so I just want to say to the board, I could have told you this in a letter, but see, you don't get to see the faces of the men and women and the children when those events went off, when there were fireworks, and then later in the year we did a Christmas tree event and lighting of the tree. You don't get to see the look on their face. And I wanted to try to convey to you the happiness in a small community from little children who would never get to go someplace traveling to see it. They got to see it in their home county. So I just want to say thank you for what you do, because it meant a great deal and it made a difference in the lives of the people in Union County. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks for coming today. It's nice, we always think about KUB and our Knoxville footprint, but we've got a footprint elsewhere, and I'm glad to see that we're meeting the needs of your community.
Well, as a sidebar, I appreciate y'all passing that resolution too, because that'll help us as well.
Thank you very much. We have Bonnie Swinford. Ms. Swinford? I may have mispronounced your name, and if I did, I'm sorry.
No, you got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time to hear from me today. My name is Bonnie Swinford, and I live in Strawberry Plains, Tennessee. I've been a KUB customer for 21 years. So I'm here to speak as a citizen and a KUB customer. I also work for an environmental organization called Sierra Club, and we have over 10,000 supporters and members across the KUB service area who want to see an acceleration of a transition to a cleaner energy economy. And so specifically I'm here today because I'm worried about the impact of the Tennessee Valley Authority's proposal to, well, they have this new pricing paradigm proposal that would raise mandatory fees and also charge more money for using less electricity. So the TVA Act requires them to protect residential customers from unnecessary high rates, but it appears that TVA staff is discussing lowering rates at larger industrial customers while at the same time raising rates on residential customers. So this is a concern one. Recent studies show that over the past 5 years, TVA has already shifted $1.4 billion in cost from industrial customers to their residential customers. Raising mandatory fixed charges will lower power bills for businesses and wealthier customers who use a lot of electricity, but will increase the power bills for thousands of families who are already overburdened by utility costs. So, in the presentation that we saw with the impact that lowering increasing your energy efficiency can lower your bill and have real impacts on families and seniors and low-income individuals. This new pricing paradigm would reverse that, and people would not have a way to lower their bills, and this is a major concern. It also de-incentivizes investing in energy efficiency. So this mandatory fee proposal will force customers to pay a higher fixed amount each month before they even flip their switch. Customers will lose the freedom to control how much their bill is each month through energy efficiency investments, renewable investments, even just how you can control your energy bill by adjusting your thermostat. So raising mandatory fees will also disincentivize conservation, unravel progress in renewables, and threaten economic growth. I don't know how many people saw last week, the Trump administration released its annual energy forecast. And the big message from that report is that our energy system is becoming cleaner and more efficient all the time. The U.S. does need to transition to clean energy much faster than we already are, but the report proves that doing so is the best economic option for consumers across the country. So I'm here to ask that KUB, that this board direct your staff to oppose TVA's proposal to add mandatory fees to what they're charging local power companies. Please encourage TVA to be a true national leader by encouraging energy efficiency and clean energy use, not discouraging it. Our environment, our children, our future depends on that step. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next member of the public that wanted to address us, Wolf Nagley. And I may have mispronounced your name too, sir. If I did, I apologize.
Thank you very much. Well, I've been, and my wife, we've been customers of KUB for more than 20 years. And before that, we actually came from Alabama, where I worked for a year with TVA on a contract for the Land and Water 201 program, which was serving the counties system-wide that get TVA services. Now, for the last 5 years, we've been generation partners also with our 9.2 kilowatt solar roof. And I want to commend KUB for all the community engagement that they've engaged in, and also for their environmental efforts, particularly with regard to the sewer improvements and stormwater management that has been taking place and is still ongoing, as we heard today. So there have been great advances made over those 20 years that I've been a customer. Now I'm concerned too about these base rate increases, because I'm also the president of the Foundation for Global Sustainability, or FGS for short. And we are a nonprofit that monitors and addresses the social and environmental issues in the Upper Tennessee Valley and in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. And so we are very concerned about the equity issues with regard to low-income customers having to pay more through the base rates rather than through the actual consumption, which really they can try hard to reduce their energy use, but those base rates, they weigh in more and more over time as they have increased over the years. And so again, as said before, I would encourage KUB to, first of all, on their own base rate, look at that, but I know that much of that effort has actually come from TVA, even encouraging the utilities that are served by TVA to shift more of the cost to the base rates rather than the actual usage rates. And also, what it does really is it counteracts some of those great achievements that you've made with community efforts and natural resources, environmental sustainability efforts that have been going on within KUB. I was very pleased actually in 2016 when you published the 2016 Community Relations Report and also the 2016 Environmental Report. And I was looking for the that was actually 2015, they had in the title 2015, and they were billed as annual reports, and I was looking for the 2016 ones, and I haven't seen any yet, and I hope there will be in 2016, and I, at this time already would anticipate the 2017 reports. So I'd like you to keep up these strong efforts, and I know often it's hard to foresee side effects of good decisions that are being made on particular issues, but with regard to those base rates, those counteract a lot of the good things that you have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Hughes.
Thank you so much. My name is Adam Hughes, and I live in North Knoxville. I'm a KUB customer. I'm a member of SOCM, Statewide Organizing for Community Empowerment, formerly Save Our Cumberland Mountains. And for over 45 years now, we have organized around social, economic, and environmental justice for communities across Tennessee. As an organizer, I can see what is increasingly being recognized as an affordable housing crisis here in Knoxville. Rents are rising, and people are moving into Knoxville at a rate where housing stock can't possibly keep up. The costs of living are up, incomes are not keeping pace, and the threat of even greater cuts in federal funding could eliminate much needed subsidies for low-income housing in Knoxville. With all this going on, we can see that low-income neighborhoods in Knoxville need a true champion in their power provider. KUB has the opportunity to provide much-needed support for struggling Knoxvillians. Mandatory fixed fees limit the ability of low-income families to control their energy usage to keep their bills affordable. They redirect infrastructure costs away from the largest energy users to those ratepayers who can least afford to shoulder them. Right now, KUB is on schedule to raise these fixed fees, which are already the highest of any Tennessee municipal provider. This increase will represent a 200% increase since 2010, at a time when ratepayers can ill afford this. If passed, the ratepayers will pay around $240 a year in these fees, which are apportioned monthly before a single light switch has been turned on. This matters to families who are operating already on a super tight budget. I ask that the board KUB move in a different direction and set lowering these fees as a primary goal. In addition, I ask you to bring your creativity to bear to expand weatherization programs. As we can see, KEAM and Rounded Up have clearly been very successful and very well managed, but they also, we can clearly see that the need exceeds our available funds. I'd encourage the board to explore on-bill financing programs to help customers lower their bills and pay off with these savings and meet this need that we see. Again, it's fair to say that Knoxville is in an affordable housing crisis. KUB can lead in this fight for housing justice. Please act to save low-income customers much needed money, and please reject and begin to reverse further increases of mandatory fixed fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alex Dunn.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Alex Dunn. I am I've lived in Knoxville for about 4.5, going on 5 years, KUB customer. And I'm a small business owner. A lot of people I work with are customers or individuals that we've talked about being low income, elderly, disabled, veterans that live on a very fixed income. And it would shake you to the core if you knew, you know, for example, I have a client, it's a husband and wife, collectively, the two of them live on $800 a month, 2 people. They have health issues, they have medication. I have sat in their living room and witnessed them have to rely on wood stove because they can't afford to pay their power bill. You know, it depends on the season, and we all understand that. But everybody that's spoken so far today has talked about fairness and the fixed rate charges that TVA and KUB are adopting at an alarming rate are disproportionately affecting the people that I work with every day and call friends and clients. So, you know, I would ask that the board look at, on a higher level, the fairness of everything, every decision that you guys make when it comes to the rate structure. Everybody should pay their fair share, everyone. More importantly, they should pay for the energy that they use. And these fixed rate charges, like one of the other young ladies mentioned, before they ever flip the switch, they're already paying $30, $40 a month, or whatever that case may be, and they haven't even used a light bulb yet. The second thing would be accountability and you know, transparency. We've talked and we've had great examples and great presentations about how these programs are being instituted and the diamond level that KUB has achieved, which is incredible. But as part of that, I think the accountability and the oversight to look at, you know, who's responsible for looking at or validating any kind of fixed rate charges, and especially when they're slated and have continued to increase over the years, and they're going to continue to increase. Finally, you know, we talked about community engagement and input. Giving KUB customers a seat at the table, whether it's a committee or something that works with this board, listening to their concerns and taking action on addressing those concerns. Those are the things, as a husband, as a small business owner, as an energy user, adopting and really fostering a movement to the clean energy, away from the fossil fuels, is encompassing and important across the board to everyone, regardless of economic or financial ability. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Dunn, I will say that we're all KUB customers, so that's what this board is comprised of. So we all, we represent your interest, and we really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Make sure that I synchronize
Okay.
starting time.
All right, start. Budget Express.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. I was here last month and asked for a couple of things, and haven't gotten those yet. So let's talk about a few things we've been doing in the past month. You have a packet, hopefully. Our organization has been looking at some things that TVA has been doing, and KUB has actually been a part of, because they participate in these discussions in very close quarters with TVA. And let me be very clear what I'm talking about. I'm zeroing in only on the electric side of the house here. I'm not talking about the other great work that KUB is doing. And I talked to a board member after my presentation last time, and there seemed to be a conflating about fixed charges between what has to be done with the consent decree and what has to be done on the electric side. There is no consent decree or anything driving the increase in fixed charges for the electric side. So let's just be really, really clear about that. So what we've identified, and in your packet you'll see, I shared with you blog information. You can go online, we've got the URL up there. Talk about we've identified that TVA has shifted. We've worked with Synapse Energy and Economics, about $1.4 billion off of the industrial customers onto the residential customers. And again, this has been going on for the last few years with some of the rate changes that TVA has been doing. We also identified in there, there's another blog again, and if you go to the website itself, you will actually be able to go to the links and see the underlying research and data behind this. We also identified how other TVA customers are reacting very strongly to these increased fixed charges, even here in East Tennessee, whereas KUB has been kind of quiet about this. And then finally, what I really want to draw your attention to is we have now gone through and systematically identified all the mandatory fees across the whole Tennessee Valley area and how they have increased over the last 5 years. And unfortunately, KUB is the poster child for some of the highest mandatory fixed fees of any of the other utilities out there, particularly the munis. You can look at other munis like Chattanooga, Nashville, and Memphis, and you'll see that their fees are actually lower than KUB. Now, there are some co-ops and some other places that are approaching $30, but there are other reasons why that may be happening. So I encourage you to look at this. You can actually have this interactive map where you can click on each of the local power companies across the Tennessee Valley area, and you can actually see how these fixed fees have gone up over the past few years. The other thing that's in your packet that I would draw your attention to is this is actually a TVA slide, that they presented with the Tennessee Valley Industrial Committee, where this wasn't supposed to get out, but it was leaked to us, and it shows how the manufacturing direct serve customers have received a 20% decrease over the last 5 years in their rates, whereas again we've been seeing base rates drifting up for residential customers. And so this documents this shift, and then again with the Synapse report. And then the other concern we have, and this is something that I brought up last time, this was again part of that slide set, and we've now through open records and freedom of information requests with TVA begin to document that over the last few years there's really been pretty much a war against what's called distributed energy resources. And these are things like energy efficiency investments and things like renewables. And you can see in here where TVA is representing that DER presents a challenge to our business model and that our rates accelerate this issue. Now, I don't think that's a true statement at all. And we have FOIA'd TVA to get the underlying data here. They're refusing to give it to us. But this is what is behind a lot of this rate change that is going on that TVA is proposing. And again, KUB staff has been in these meetings. They're basically complicit because they're going along with it. And our ask is that KUB begin to stand up and push back on this because this is hurting residential customers. It is disincentivizing a lot of the wonderful programs you're talking about because mandatory fees end up hurting disproportionately people that are on fixed incomes, people that are low income, people that are low energy users, that disincentivizes energy efficiency investment because it changes the variable rate so that it's low, and so it destroys the economics of those investments. And it also impacts people that are basically doing customer-owned solar generation. These are all should be societal goals and seem to be things that KUB wants to espouse, but these rate structure change actually set that back and disincentivize that. So my ask, again, is that we set up some sort of a collaborative effort with stakeholders in this area, in the KUB service territory. We get to the root of this. I still don't have the underlying cost of service study that was used to justify these mandatory fee increases. And I would like to see that we have this information provided. So again, we would like to have your support and collaboration and cooperation to address these issues because they're not going away, they're only intensifying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do we have any other Keep- It's like the Energizer Bunny. It doesn't turn on. Well, I don't even know how to turn the thing off. Okay. Anybody else want to address the board?
Please.
Are you on the list?
I'm not on the list. I got here a little late, unfortunately. I'm on my lunch break today, so. My name is Laura Humphries. I
Okay.
did call ahead though.
All righty. Well, I'm going to put you on the clock and hopefully it'll work this time.
And like I said, I am on my lunch break, so I promise I won't keep it very long. But that ought to speak to how important I feel it is to be here today. So, as I said, my name is Laura. I'm a KUB customer and a single mom. I have 2 boys, ages 6 and 8. And I usually keep my house set at about 66 degrees in the winter, sometimes lower if I can. Also wanted to tell you about another friend of mine. She's also a single mother, and she has a little boy, same age as mine. And I went over to her house just like a couple weeks ago, and her house was set actually in the 50s, and she apologized to me anyway. I'm sorry it's cold in here, but we usually keep it really low in the wintertime, and I make Hayden sleep with me. And we just do extra blankets because, you know, it's really hard when you have a high electric bill. So the relevance of these stories is just simply that, that we are both low usage and low income customers. And, you know, often when we are faced with choices about how to spend our income, it comes down to, you know, maybe lowering how can we control our own bills. And so fixed rate charges actually is complicating that for us quite a bit. So considering that, I would ask that you all consider taking the time to review and maybe do a cost service analysis. That would be long-term and short-term for the cost benefits, not only for consumers, but for your all's revenues as well. Because in the end, that low-income people should not have to choose to heat or eat. Something else that's really relevant to the fixed rate charges is I had the honor, and I say honor because it really was, I was actually really proud of Knoxville. I had the honor of working a little bit with the KEEM operation that happened with energy efficiency. And, you know, it was great to see multiple organizations come together and put forth such an effort for low-income households. And I feel like that fixed rate is really undermining that. It's almost like taking the money back after you've invested it for those low-income people. And the work that I did actually showed that the energy efficiency didn't just help with energy bills. There was evidence that it helped with health benefits as well. So that was a really big deal. So that's 2 good reasons to reconsider increasing fixed rate charges. So if you would, I would really respect you all for taking the extra steps and doing the extra analysis to ensure that these fixed rate charges are the best for your customers. Because I reviewed the city charter, and in section 1106C, concerning KUB and rates, it says all residential rates shall be fair, reasonable, and uniform for all customers in the same class. And so to me, that disproportionate, you know, fixed rate charge, or it's disproportionate for us to spend more as low income from our budget every month, you know, for electricity. So I'd also ask that you all oppose TVA's efforts to implement a grid access fee. That grid access fee inevitably will also increase those fixed rate charges and just increase the energy burden in our area. I'm a big supporter of the Appalachian region. I graduated from the University of Tennessee actually in August. I got my master's degree in energy and environmental policy and public administration. So not only do I get excited about any effort that is taken towards a greener city, but I also love the administration side of cities. So I do understand, you know, that you all have concerns in running your business, but at the same time, I want to be extra proud of my city as a leader going green. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Any other visitors that want to address the board today? Well, if we have no further business, we're adjourned. Following the adjournment of this meeting, the board and staff will have a lunch session across the hall that is open to the public. And we're concluded for the day. Thank you.